On this program, you'll have the unique opportunity to listen in on a remarkable conversation with 4 inspiring guests, all of whom have been convicted of serious crimes and have spent years in prison. However, while in prison, each got involved in a tremendously successful program called Rehabilitation through the Arts, and it changed their lives then and now. The recidivism rate for RTA alumni is 7% compared to the national average of around 60%. And on this program, we'll talk about race in America. This is America and the World is brought to you by Japan, history, hospitality, and advanced technology, sharing tomorrow. The Washington Diplomat, a world of news and perspective. The Sultanate of Oman. The U.S.-China Education Trust and F.Y. Chang Foundation, Julia Chang Block, President. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Forerunner Foundation, dedicated to forward-thinking public policy. And the Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. Is it tough to be black in America?
Absolutely, especially for a woman.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
In that sense, I think I've lost a lot of femininity because I wasn't raised with my father in the household. Masculine energy wasn't necessarily something that was in a household full of, we had like I have 6 aunts, 3 uncles, some living, some are not. So being a woman in America, there's always the sense that you're carrying around, I heard comedians say, you're carrying around something that has value. And then at the same time, it is devalued. And that is on your body. And therefore you are always, you seem as though you're the weaker vessel, so then you have to carry yourself with a bit of more toughness. And so to be vulnerable is not something male or female can do.
Something that it's troubled me since it started to occur during my incarceration was the large number of African American men that have been shot by white officers. And when I was incarcerated, they had this article that was in the newspaper that always fascinated me. It was titled "The Talk." And it dealt with how does African-American parents, like you're gonna have to do to your children, talk to their young teenage children about dealing with law enforcement now. So if you go to get your wallet out, to show your ID, you're subject to get shot. It's just, I think, I take nothing away from being an African-American woman, but I think it's really tough nowadays to be African-American male just because of the way that we are betrayed, especially the young generation. They're a little smarter than we were growing up. They're always going in their pocket for something, and it seems like that society still fears African-Americans for some reason. They think we're aggressive by nature, they don't know anything about us, but they have this fear of African Americans. I don't know where that comes from.
And then that perpetuates to us being fearful of ourselves. So then when we walk past someone of another race who wants to clench their pocketbooks or they give a false high because they're actually in fear, well, we live in the fear as African Americans, period, without separating the genders, without even having to do that. We sometimes fear ourselves, and then our reactions to one another is just as harsh as the reaction there is to those who are not even in our communities or our nation.
I remember a time when I was young, when I was pretty much a kid, the officers used to live in the neighborhood. And there wasn't this big fear of officers, and they weren't so afraid of you because you see them outside their uniform eventually as well. They see you, you see them, they're taking their children to the park, you're in the park with your parents or your guardians. Now majority of them live outside the district that they work in.
Yeah.
I have family that's in law enforcement. I've grown to respect law enforcement. I respect the people and the law enforcement. However, there are some, just like there are some criminals that just make certain groups or certain ethnic groups look bad. There's some guys, there's some African American that makes, and it's highlighted, the way it's highlighted, it makes African Americans look bad. And to me, it's disheartening. You know, it's sad because if you're asking me not to judge the law enforcement by one officer's or two officers' act, but you're saying we're all classified as the same because one person in my neighborhood lives a certain way and did a certain thing, it's unfair.
That is a good point.
And
It's not a full representation of the entire.
Exactly.
exactly, the majority of the statistic, the majority of crimes are committed by Caucasians. Hence, the population, there's a big difference in the population. However, African Americans are the majority incarcerated for it. I had to go through what I went through. I had to go through, and I beg for forgiveness. I am completely apologetic and remorseful for what I did. But my life steps, it had to happen before me to become a leader in my community. It had to happen for me to become somebody that cared enough to make a difference.
Right.
I have a 20-year-old daughter. I have an 18-year-old son. I have a 16-year-old son. I have a 5-month-old son. I have 3 grandchildren. I have to be a better leader for them than the next person. I can't rely on somebody in my community because that sense that it takes a community to raise a child has faded. It has faded. It's gone. And because I have these young children growing up, these young grandchildren growing up, my pain, my struggle has to be their empowerment. Because if it's not, who else is going to give it to them?
How did the program get you headed in a new direction? What happened? What nerve was touched, or
The creative nerve.
creative?
Everything,
nerve?
I think human beings are created to create, be it in the form of children, or producing beautiful things for us to view and look at.
You've done poetry, written a couple
I've
of
done
books.
poetry. I have a business now in which I think that if it wasn't for RTA, I wouldn't know the business mechanics of how to operate a business, how to think outside
What kind
the
of
box.
business?
Well, right now I'm doing clothing, so I have a small clothing line, and I'm not a full artist. I'm just a creator. And I'm a polymath, and I love that term. And that was given to me by Ann Lloyd, who is an actress and a retired actress and facilitator.
That's where that
Polymath
word came from.
is I think is a rehabilitation through the arts word. That's a word.
So what's
for
the word
all of
again?
us.
Polymath.
A polymath, because we've learned skills that cover so many things that you are capable. You are no longer just saying, well, I can't sing. Oh, I can't make music. Your can't turns into, I can do anything. You know, and you do.
So creativity is
Creativity
touched,
is,
self-esteem,
yes.
confidence.
And I also think
Yes.
that
Self-forgiveness.
volunteers and the staff of RTA that come in and put that sense of, I believe in you,
Right.
back into you, because when you're incarcerated, that's just taken out of you. You know, that
Yeah, that's
all the
what you were
air
talking about. Yeah.
is sucked out of you, and then when the volunteers come in, they're so excited to see you there. We can do this, and then at the end, when we started to invite in outside civilians, and they came in to show their appreciation for the performance we just did, you know, it all gave us a sense of, wow.
Yeah.
So
Art.
like, when you're with RTA, when you're with Rehabilitation Through the Arts, what happens is you tap into this creativity. It's not just the creativity, it's a childhood. You tap back into your childhood. And if you look at most men and women that are incarcerated, they had to grow up fast. So they missed a chunk of their childhood through the struggle. And when you was a child, and you ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up, they had something to tell you. I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be, and it might change every year, it might change every 2-3 years. It's because they're constantly being creative, their mind constantly giving them something that they can do, they visualizing it. But at some point in our lives, that was snatched away.
Right.
We were forced to grow up and make hard decisions before we should have had to make them. So we tapped into our creativity. We began to have hope that we can do something. We start seeing and visualizing, all right, this is what I want to do. This is what I can do. That hope restores.
Right.
And then the biggest part of it, but an important part of it, is the belief. A lot of times when you lost your belief or you never had belief in yourself, it's because people didn't give you the opportunity to believe in yourself. They often told you couldn't do something or you wouldn't make it. You can't make that shot. You can't run that fast. You can't lift this table. You can't draw that. You can't do this. And it stuck with you so long that you never believed in yourself.
Right.
So when we see volunteers come, because they come in to see us perform, they know that there's something good inside of me. So that's what RTA have given to me. And that transformation that people go through is these little things that RTA, the littlest things, that they give us back, that it makes the most difference in our lives.
How do you think being black, being African American, has played a role in your kind of life's path? Is that an okay question?
It's a loaded question.
Is it?
I couldn't imagine being even light-skinned, to be honest with you. So
What's that?
I can't even imagine being even light-skinned. So I actually grew into a comfortability about being. I hate to use the misnomer of black and African American, but I find that though the difficulties are there in society because of so many gaps and boxes and misinformation and historic issues in this country that are not quite faced yet. My experience is my experience, and it builds character if I represent myself just as I am. I could not have locks in the military. I would have to cut them. The more pretzeling I do to fit in other people's perception of what being a so-called African American or so-called black person is in America, the more inauthentic I am. But when I am able to be a statistic and you can see the color of my skin, and then you see the quality of my character, my abilities, my creativity, my gifts, my talents, my relatability is there, and it crosses anything that has to do with the experience of being black or African American in this country. It's something that resonates with everyone of any nationality or anything of that nature. So it's not as difficult when you embrace it.
That's true.
And when you accept it, from wherever you stand, when you accept it, you know what? There's something beautiful about his white skin, or there's something beautiful about her caramel, or his dark chocolate, or when we can get out of being crayon colors in the first place and we see each other as human beings, beings.
Yes,
It makes a difference.
what do you want white people to know?
I would just like to say one of my biggest pet peeves from Caucasian white people is that he's so articulate.
Yeah,
I hate that term because what does that mean? It's just like because you're African American, you're not allowed to speak correctly or proper grammar. They'll say he speaks like a white person. So
Yes.
how does a white
What does
person
that
speak? If you take the English dictionary and you pronounce words the way they're supposed to be pronounced, that's proper pronunciation. That's not being articulate. That's not talking like a white person. And it's happened to me a lot of times. I would be on the phone, I would be talking to someone, and they have a normal conversation with me. Then when they meet me in person, they're like, "Oh, so you're Charles?" You know, it's like there's this surprise.
Listen, I
judgment out of it.
piggyback on what Charles is saying. and it's sad that I have to bring this up, but it's so true. One of the things they used against me at my trial was the fact that I was educated and I spoke well, even though I didn't speak a lot. But because I was educated and I spoke well, I knew what I was doing because I was a biology pre-med nursing major. How could a black woman do that many things and then commit this horrific crime? So they weren't even considering saying, you know what, there are mitigating circumstances involved as to why she did what she did. It was just, There's nothing wrong with her. Mind you, I've been diagnosed with a mental illness since I was a child, but that wasn't even an issue because I knew how to speak for myself. I knew how to articulate, and I was educated.
Yeah, that
So-
causes fear. That caused
Yes.
fear when I entered jail. I had the correctional officers telling me, well, you're black, you're gay, you're a lesbian, and we don't know you from in here. Am I supposed to be in the revolving door? And because they thought that I was intelligent, they missed the fact that I just came from war. I
Right.
probably also have some type of mental illness, like ADHD, in which you never saw. But to be judged just by the character of your ability to think
Right.
and not be able to think, and your processing skills would be, that's amazing. But I think that what white men and women should know, even black people, it's okay to love people outside of your race. It's okay to take your time and learn them and know them.
Jeff, what do you want white people to know?
I'm just big on knocking down walls.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I'm interacting with people, I don't see color.
Right.
Is it possible?
I've learned, I've conditioned myself to stop seeing color. Because for me to say what I want white people to see is exactly what's going to be highlighted and they're going to see. And I say that because if I tell you don't look at my shoes,
Look at
10
your
out of 10, 9 out of 10 chances you're going to look at my shoes to see why I'm saying don't look at my shoes. So my part in this is for me to live not seeing color. I'm not belligerent. I'm not ignorant to the fact that it exists. I'm not ignorant to the fact that there are privileged and unprivileged by way of you are raised. I just present a challenge. Take your life, take my life, swap them, live it, then judge it. Let me live yours and let me judge it. But another way of putting that is keep your life. Keep mine. I keep my life. I keep yours. But let's just take your money out of that equation and take the danger out of my equation. We are now equal.
Right.
Because that's the difference between us. Most Caucasians, most white Americans are raised into wealth, or they're not as poor as my communities. So if you take their money away and you take the danger away from my community, which is presented because we live in poverty, we are equal. We are equal. That's the only difference. The money and the poverty is not really the skin level. It's not even the skin tone. It has nothing to do with that.
I have to say this. One thing that I really would like white people to remember is to treat people the way you want to be treated. And you never know just how beneficial the results can be. I think that's just like one basic golden rule that a lot of people in general forget. If you want to be treated like with the utmost respect, treat other people with the utmost respect. If you would love people to love you for who you are, love other people for who they are. And I think that is one of the biggest things that's missing in America.
I have learned something in the military. Let me say this real quick. I learned this in the military, and that's how we feel. Because if you are trained to think that you're going to be in danger and you're learning how to shoot and things, it's not even that I don't see your color and that I don't want you to see mine, because I try to condition and take care of my skin. And
Yes.
So I want you to see that. But
it looks very good.
Thank you for the makeup artist. But I want
me too.
Yeah, you too. So I want it to be, if there's anything to take back to anyone, especially a white male, as your question states, if aliens came today and they didn't mean us well, I want you to have my back against no matter what color they are, and no matter what color you are. In the uniform, we wear green and beige. And if we were presented with a bullet, whoever's going to shoot for me, I don't care what color you are. In a sense of, we have an objective together, and as a humanity, we have an objective we can do together. I want you to see my color, and I want to see yours. but not in a negative with a negative connotation.
Right, right.
That's it for me.
Charles, you're going to have the last word.
I would like to just, say a couple things to tie all this up. Jeff hit it on the head, and my pastor does it always. I can't get rid of my past.
Right.
I am who I am today because of my past.
Right.
I ask for forgiveness constantly, but I wouldn't be the person that I am today without my past. I'm drug-free, I'm alcohol-free, I lead a tax-paying, productive life today. And I thank programs like Rehabilitation Through the Arts. I thank yourself for, doing the research on Rehabilitation Through the Arts, contacting us through Craig to speak to my peers, to find out, what it's like to live a life of incarceration and come back out and be productive members of society. I'm so happy that you were able to get the women's voice, because a lot of times when people think of incarceration, they only think of men. Today's society in 2019, women have taken over for men because men were incarcerated at large numbers prior to, so women had to take over and do what they had to do to survive. So the number of women incarcerated has gone up. Therefore, the number of women coming home has gone up as well. So, I think that I speak for everyone who has been incarcerated before. We don't want you to look at our past, because our past is our past, but please accept us for who we are today, and just give us a second chance to be the citizens that we want to be. I think we have a couple of seconds left. Can some of our peers say something?
Yeah, we can have a last word. But I want to just thank my friend Craig Cullinane.
Yes, thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Our friend as well.
And Catherine.
Catherine Watkins, our executive director, founder.
And can I just, my goal going in was to listen and learn. Did I pass that test? Is okay?
Did you learn?
Oh, I did learn.
You asked great questions.
Yes.
Great questions. And you're not far. You're one of our peers.
Yes.
I am.
Yes,
I am
you are.
indeed.
Degrees of separation.
Yes, thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, there's much more of the story to tell, I'm sure. But I do want to say, I've been doing this for a long time, and this is really a privilege.
Wow.
To sit with you and learn and listen. I mean, it just really is a great honor. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to say, I'm very grateful and thankful for RTA. Through RTA, being in prison, I've learned how to love again. I learned, and when I say that, I learned how to trust people that are outside of my family. I had a false sense of loyalty to friends that I thought were friends that just abandoned me when I was when I became incarcerated. So these are my friends, these are my family, and RTA taught me how to do that again. So I'm very grateful to RTA. I'm also available to do panel discussions. I'm also willing to talk with youth. So I can be reached, if it's all right for me to say, I can be reached on Instagram.
Everybody.
So I'm going to give two. Instagram is a very popular tool that people use, even businesses.
Everybody needs Instagram.
So I can be reached on Instagram at JC_lifes_expressionist. Or you can email me, jjclemente100@gmail.com. And there is no fee. I owe this debt to society.
Right.
And any impact that I can have on a child's life or anyone's lives from making a decision that I made or going through what I went through. I am human.
That's right.
I am human.
Yes.
And sociology.
Yes, sir.
I understand you have a beautiful voice.
I would hope that I do.
Whoa.
Hold on.
And thank you
Get some of the
for
water.
the education that you gave us. There was one. Charles, a couple of degrees or one and then?
Yes, I have a bachelor's in human services and a master's degree in urban ministry.
From New York
York
Seminary?
Theological Seminary.
Seminary. And 2 books, poetry.
2 books.
Poetry, business.
Business, www.sscreatives.
You're gonna have to write those down for
Right.
me.
We're gonna write it down for you.
Get them up on the screen.
2 books on Amazon.
Don't forget the public speaker.
Do you know that?
That's right.
Do you know that
Polymath.
we've accomplished 4 half-hour programs?
That time went so fast. It still feel like we haven't even scratched the surface.
I hope it reaches.
Thank you for the trust.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for the
guiding us.
invitation.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. For information about This Is America and the World, visit our website, thisisamerica.net, or our YouTube channel, This Is America TV, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This Is America and the World is brought to you by Japan, history, hospitality, and advanced technology, sharing tomorrow. The Washington Diplomat, a world of news and perspective. The Sultanate of Oman. The U.S.-China Education Trust and F.Y. Chang Foundation, Julia Chang Block, President. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Forerunner Foundation, dedicated to forward-thinking public policy. And the Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings.